The Mist, 2007. It starts with a storm, trees snapping, windows shattering, the sky bruised and heavy. Artist David Drayton takes his young son Billy to town for supplies, unaware that something unspeakable is crawling toward their quiet Maine community. A dense, unnatural mist descends over the lake and creeps across the streets like a living thing. Visibility drops to nothing. Inside a supermarket, David, Billy, and dozens of strangers barricade the doors after a man stumbles in screaming, "Something in the mist!" They soon discover he isn't delusional. Tentacled creatures lurk within the fog, ripping apart anyone who ventures outside. But the real horror isn't only the monsters. Panic festers. Fear turns neighbor against neighbor. Religious zealot Mrs. Carmody declares the mist is God's punishment and demands blood sacrifice to appease his wrath. Each hour erodes the thin veneer of civilization until the store becomes a microcosm of human collapse. David escapes with Billy and a small group, driving blindly through the endless white void. They witness unspeakable sights, colossal shapes moving just beyond sight, the ruins of a world swallowed whole. When their car finally runs out of gas, silence settles. They have 4 bullets and 5 people. Believing rescue impossible and unwilling to let the creatures devour them, David makes the most agonizing choice imaginable. He shoots his companions, including his beloved son, sparing them a more brutal death. Shaking, empty, he steps outside, ready for the monsters to finish him. Then the mist begins to lift. Armored vehicles emerge through the clearing fog. Soldiers torching the beasts, civilians being rescued. Help was seconds away. David collapses, his screams echoing through the still air, a sound of pure animal grief. The monsters were terrible, but the true killer was despair. In a final, cruel twist, the mist becomes a metaphor for hopelessness itself. A suffocating fog that convinces you salvation is impossible until it's too late. C7N 1995. Rain falls endlessly over the unnamed city, a place where the streets seem soaked with sin and the sky never brightens. Veteran detective William Somerset is days away from retirement when he's partnered with hot-headed rookie David Mills. Together they're pulled into a series of meticulously staged murders based on the 7 deadly sins. Each crime scene is a grotesque sermon. A man forced to eat himself to death for gluttony, a greedy defense lawyer bled out for greed, a model mutilated for pride. The killer, who calls himself John Doe, stays invisible, always one step ahead, weaving philosophy into every corpse he leaves behind. Somerset senses that Doe isn't just killing, he's preaching, trying to prove that society is rotten beyond redemption. Mills, impatient and angry, believes he can outsmart the murderer and end the nightmare through sheer will. Then, without warning, Doe calmly surrenders. Bloodless, polite, he confesses to 5 murders and claims 2 remain. He promises to lead the detectives to the final bodies if they follow his instructions. They drive into a desolate wasteland of dirt and power lines, the sun beating down like judgment itself. Hours pass, then a delivery truck approaches carrying a single box. Somerset intercepts it, opens it, and recoils in horror. Inside is the severed head of Mills' wife, Tracy, murdered for envy. Doe's envy of Mills' normal life. The final sin is wrath. Doe whispers that Mills will complete the masterpiece if he kills him. Somerset pleads, desperate to stop the chain of violence. But Doe's plan is flawless. Mills' rage boils into something unstoppable. His gun trembles, he fires again and again, screaming as his world collapses. In that moment, Mills becomes wrath, fulfilling Doe's prophecy and proving the killer's point, that no one is immune to corruption. Helicopters swarm in the fading light, but there is no triumph, no justice. Only the quiet despair of a world where evil doesn't just win, it writes the ending. Requiem for a Dream 2000. The film begins with dreams that almost feel tender. Sarah Goldfarb, a lonely widow in a crumbling Brooklyn apartment, imagines herself slim and radiant on her favorite TV game show. Her son Harry dreams of easy money with his best friend Tyrone, planning to sell heroin until they can afford a better life. Harry's girlfriend Marion dreams of opening a boutique, a place filled with art and light where she can escape her wealthy but controlling parents. At first, their ambitions seem harmless, even sweet. They believe their vices are only temporary shortcuts. Sarah swallows diet pills to fit into a red dress. Harry and Tyrone hustle small-time drug deals. Marion follows Harry's lead, convinced their love will conquer everything. But ambition quietly turns poisonous. Sarah's diet pills are just amphetamines, burning her nerves and twisting her mind. She stays up for days, cleaning obsessively, hallucinating that her refrigerator is a living beast that growls and lunges across the kitchen. Harry and Tyrone's business unravels as competition, police pressure, and addiction sink their plans. Their supply dries up, desperation drives them to riskier deals. Marion sells her art, then herself, trading dignity for the next fix. The film cuts between their downward spirals with a pounding, rhythmic intensity. Rapid edits, crashing sound, pupils dilating like black holes. By winter, all illusions are dead. Sarah is institutionalized, strapped to a hospital bed for brutal electroshock treatments, her mind permanently shattered. Harry's infected arm forces doctors to amputate, leaving him broken and alone in a sterile white ward. Tyrone rots in a southern prison, taunted and beaten by guards. Marion curls in a filthy apartment clutching a bag of heroin, her boutique dream replaced by the cold comfort of a needle. The final montage shows each character curling into a fetal position, trapped in their private hell. No redemption, no escape, only the echo of their dreams, bright, empty promises that lured them into oblivion. Melancholia, 2011. The film begins with visions of the apocalypse rendered in painterly slow motion. Horses collapsing, birds falling from the sky, a giant blue planet looming closer with every frame. Then the narrative rewinds to the night of a lavish wedding, where the bride, Justine, smiles stiffly through a celebration that feels increasingly hollow. Beneath her beauty and charm lies a crushing depression that no amount of champagne or family speeches can mask. As the evening unravels, Justine's behavior grows erratic. She alienates her new husband, clashes with her manipulative mother, and finally retreats into a private despair. The wedding, meant to mark a beginning, becomes a quiet funeral for normal life. Meanwhile, a rogue planet named Melancholia has entered the solar system. Scientists claim it will pass harmlessly by Earth, but a handful of ominous signs suggest otherwise. Justine's sister Claire clings to hope, obsessively checking updates and trying to protect her young son. Justine, paradoxically, grows calmer as the threat increases. Her depression gives her an almost supernatural clarity. She accepts extinction as inevitable and even comforting. As Melancholia fills the night sky like a glowing omen, denial gives way to panic. Claire's husband commits suicide, unable to face the truth. In the final moments, the sisters and the boy construct a fragile, magic cave of sticks on the lawn, a childlike shelter against the end. They sit together inside as the planet grows impossibly large, its surface rippling with cold blue light. There is no escape, no hero to save them, only the deafening roar of cosmic collision as Melancholia swallows the Earth in a single blinding instant. The screen cuts to black. It's a vision of total annihilation that feels strangely serene. A portrait of depression, not as weakness, but as an unflinching acceptance of the universe's indifference. In the end, Melancholia offers no comfort, only the quiet truth that some endings are as beautiful as they are inevitable. Hereditary, 2018. It opens with a funeral and the quiet unease of a family already fraying. Annie Graham buries her secretive mother, a woman she describes as private but controlling, and the house seems to absorb the tension like a sponge. Annie's daughter, Charlie, a peculiar girl with a clicking tongue and a vacant stare, was strangely close to the grandmother. Her son Peter drifts through adolescence in a haze of guilt and pot smoke. Annie's husband Steve tries to keep everyone calm, but the air inside their home grows heavier with every scene. Small things feel wrong, symbols carved into doorframes, shadows that twitch at the edge of vision, a presence watching from corners where no one stands. Then tragedy strikes with horrifying suddenness. Peter reluctantly drives Charlie to a party, but an allergic reaction forces them to rush home. In a panic, Peter speeds down a dark road as Charlie leans out the window for air. A telephone pole flashes by, and in an instant, Charlie is decapitated. Peter drives home in shock, silently crawling into bed while Annie discovers the body the next morning. The house becomes a tomb of grief. Annie spirals into guilt-ridden mania, Peter sinks into trauma, and Steve struggles to hold the family together. Into this chaos creeps Joan, a seemingly kind stranger who teaches Annie how to perform a seance, claiming it will allow her to speak with Charlie. But the seance is no comfort. It opens a door that cannot be closed. Objects move on their own. Peter sees his dead sister's reflection smiling back at him. Annie uncovers old photographs and realizes her mother was part of a cult devoted to Paimon, a king of hell. The accidents, the seances, even Charlie's birth were all orchestrated to summon this demon into a male host. The family's suffering is revealed as ritual sacrifice. Steve is burned alive, and Ipanamoman, possessed and screaming, decapitates herself with piano wire. Peter flees into the attic only to be crowned as Paimon's new vessel by the cult members, who bow in eerie silence. The final shot lingers on Peter's blank, serene face as a choir chants praises to their demon king. There is no rescue, no heroic last stand, only the revelation that destiny itself was the trap. Antichrist, 2009. In the opening moments, slow-motion black and white imagery shows a child slipping from an open window while his parents make love in another room. It's one of cinema's most haunting prologues, and it sets the tone for the devastation to come. The grieving mother, played by Charlotte Gainsbourg, collapses under the weight of guilt, convinced that her negligence caused their son's death. Her husband, a therapist portrayed by Willem Dafoe, insists on treating her himself, believing that rational analysis can cure grief. He takes her to a remote cabin in the woods, ironically named Eden, where the natural world feels alive with menace. Trees groan in the wind, animals stare with unsettling intelligence, and acorns rain down like a constant reminder of decay. Instead of healing, the forest amplifies their torment. The mother becomes increasingly unstable, plagued by nightmares and violent impulses. She claims nature itself is evil, pointing to the brutality of the animal kingdom as proof that chaos is the true order. The husband dismisses her fears, but the environment grows more surreal. A deer with a stillborn fawn dangling from its body, a fox that speaks a single chilling phrase. Chaos reigns. As their relationship deteriorates, therapy turns to domination, love to hatred. Sexual encounters blur into acts of punishment. The mother mutilates herself in a shocking scene of self-harm, while the husband struggles to maintain control, both physically and mentally. By the final act, the line between victim and perpetrator collapses. She accuses him of enabling misogynistic violence across history, then attempts to murder him, believing it will break the cycle. He kills her in self-defense and burns her body outside the cabin. In the morning light, he wanders through the forest as hundreds of faceless women silently emerge from the trees, surrounding him like a spectral audience. The ending offers no redemption, only a chilling ambiguity. Was the mother consumed by madness, or was she a vessel for some ancient feminine force? Antichrist leaves the viewer trapped in a nightmare where grief and evil are indistinguishable, and where the natural world is both cradle and executioner.